Now, how could we have gotten from one position to the other in a short 78 years? And I would submit to you that part of what was going on was in 1859, there was this guy, you've probably all heard of him, called Charles Darwin, who issued his book on evolution. And I would submit to you that the idea behind the worldview behind Charles Darwin is completely antithetical and inimical to a biblical Christian worldview that we say we believe. Because it attacks the very premise upon which the Christian faith rests, and it is this. In the beginning, God. Isn't it cool that God understands that we're by and large simple people? So instead of having to read to the end of the book to figure it out, he puts the most important thing at the very first sentence, without which none of the rest of the book makes any sense. In the beginning, God. You see, God is ultimate reality. Not mass, not matter, not energy, not the cosmos, as Carl Sagan would say, but God, and he is the ultimate reality, and as such, he defines reality. And we know that this is what God then did. He created, did he not? God did not create because he was deficient in some need or because he needed something to play with or to have something to do. He created for his own glory. Psalm 19:7, the heavens declare the glory of God. Night after night, they pour forth speech. See, they are telling us that this created order reflects the nature and the character of God, and it must be so because he intended for it to glorify himself. Now think about it. If something is going to glorify God, it would have to be consistent with his nature and character, because he is that which is most glorious. So anything contrary to who God is, if he were to create it, would denigrate him, would diminish him. It couldn't glorify him. So if we want to know the truth, I submit to you, about anything, we have to ask, is what we are looking at, what we are thinking about, consistent with or contrary to the nature of God? But what began to happen, to be honest, is that we were not, as Christians, prepared to give a defense when asked a reason for the hope that's within us. We didn't really know how to respond to Charles Darwin. And so I believe the church began what I would call an easy accommodation with the evolutionist. And that accommodation was simply that, well, God is a supernatural spiritual being, and see, there's this supernatural spiritual realm, and that's where God and church and prayer and Bible study and all that stuff sort of is. And but you're right, Darwin, there's this natural realm down here. It's not spiritual, it's secular, and that's where reason and science intersect and control. And so we conceded to them that ground. It reminds me, I was in the YMCA a few years back, and the Supreme Court of Massachusetts had just said that gay marriage was required. This guy was standing next to me. We were drying off, and a friend of mine knew he was liberal and I was conservative, and he asked the liberal guy, he said, well, what do you think about that decision by the Massachusetts court? And he said, I think it's just horrible when the government tries to control people. Now, being a lawyer and a politician, I said, well, that's interesting. I thought that's all government did do was control people's behavior. He said, well, you know what I mean. When people start trying to use their faith to tell other people what to do. I said, oh, okay, I get you. I said, we really should use reason, science. He said, absolutely. And I said, well, then I guess your faith is in reason and in science. That was the end of the conversation. But you see, we all believe that there's something that's really real. And it will decide for us what we do.